Hi, I'm Marina Sirtis, and you're going boldly with Beyond Trek podcast.
This is Beyond Trek Podcast, your source for Star Trek on social media and around the web. I'm Big J.
I'm Watney.
And I'm Dag, the Trivia Master. You can find us on Facebook at Beyond Trek Podcast and on Twitter at Beyond Trek Pod.
Red alert.
We'll go through it, but we'll get into that. Welcome to Beyond Trek Podcast.
I like the cinnamon roll nickname. I don't know. You're going to have to tell me where that comes from. And now I'm hungry.
As far as I know.
Okay, it comes from everybody loves cinnamon rolls, period.
It's a Tumblr thing that I first learned about with Lore because he would talk about, Data is a cinnamon roll because he's too pure for this world.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
And that's just the dominant character trait of your cinnamon roll.
Yeah, everyone likes them and they're overly sweet. And I think that is the perfect, well, maybe not the perfect description for this week's episode of Tendi, because that's the entire crux of her character. This episode is that someone doesn't like her.
Should we introduce ourselves first?
I think Tendi.
Oh, sure. Maybe. Yeah.
I'm Big Cinnabon, or Big J.
Jay's the cinnamon roll of the three of us. Mm-hmm. But I'm Dag. And before we go any further, if you haven't seen this episode, Moist Vessel, please pause us and go watch the episode, or you are in for all of the spoilers. Spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert.
I actually hate that title.
Proceed.
Moist.
I think they did that on purpose. Everybody just hates the word moist. So if you can do with ASMR, can we? No, maybe. Okay.
I like it.
Why did they call it that? Do we know?
I have no idea.
Is it?
I don't
because
know.
The orange goo got all over it.
Probably, yeah, because of the goo or something.
Yeah.
Great. So now we're going to associate moist with goo. I feel like we should have Ben Shapiro as a guest on this one.
Don't
because we're getting
manifest that in the slightest.
I went there. I said it. I said it again.
All right, we'll get Cardi B then too.
You effing with some wet ass people.
All right, everybody. Thanks for sticking with us at least this far.
Yeah.
That's a record. We went off the rails less than 3 minutes in.
Welcome to our episode 4 Lower Decks review. We are at Stardate 57538.9 this episode.
Do you know what day that is?
No.
It's July 16th, 2380.
It's math in it, love. It's math.
Math.
It's just math. Simple math. So the first scene of this episode is actually fantastic. It's kind of like a small montage of the mission, and then it kind of like segues into Freeman talking about it. She was a voiceover the whole time. I just loved how they laid this out. The Cerritos is helping an ancient generation ship, which is pretty fucking cool. I love haunted ship episodes. We are not featuring the haunted ship in this episode, like being inside of it, but this episode actually takes place completely on like the Cerritos, and like you see little blips of like Captain Durango's ship, but by and large it takes place on the Cerritos, which I thought was pretty cool because in the last episodes they've been like a lot of away missions, kind of,
right?
And so it was nice to have a featured episode just on the ship. We
get a lot more starship activity in this episode, which I think is nice because it's just so cool to see the beautiful graphics of the exteriors. And Watney, you've got one right behind you, which is great.
I do.
It was just really cool to see the exteriors of the ship presented for more than just an establishing shot in this episode.
Mm-hmm. Yes, the Cerritos and the surrounding ships have kind of been through it. Cerritos got graffitied the last episode, but just in like typical Trek fashion, it bounces back at the end. So anyway, we learned, just to go into a little bit of the detail for this opening sequence, we learned that this generation ship never made it to its destination. It's like an ancient ship, and so the cargo is this orange goo that that turns inorganic material into organic material. And the people on this ship were going to use it to terraform. So we jump after this description to the conference room where Captain Freeman and Captain Durango, a Tellarite, who apparently used to work together on the USS Illinois, they are co-captaining this mission or co-commanding this mission. And we see Mariner handing out these pads, yawning.
Now, I would have to say that I thought that this was a little bit over the top, because there is certainly that line of kind of bucking authorities, sticking your thumb up at it, and then there's just straight out insubordination, and that's the thing that I was liking, and not that I don't like anymore when I say was, but what I liked about her character was that she kind of towed that line, didn't quite jump off the bridge into just absolutely being insubordinate. And I think that this particular scene it went there. I think that was just a bit much because, I mean, I get that this is the least important ship in Starfleet on the least important mission, et cetera, and that you've got an ensign that's been promoted and demoted and court-martialed and everything else, but this was just a bit much for me.
I would agree. The yawning moment kind of went overboard, but as I noticed and rewatching this episode, she hams it up when the captain has another authority figure aboard. Like, we've never seen this before. It was weird and sort of out of character for what we've come to expect from Mariner. She hams it up here with Durango. And then, of course, at the end, she hams it up again in front of Admiral Vassery. So I'm thinking that might just be part of her shtick when, she doesn't want any of the other captains to want her or to promote her.
Yeah, and embarrass her mom. We learn a lot about their relationship this episode.
We do.
And I think a lot of it stems from pissing her mom off. And after seeing how her mom treats her and micromanages her, I'm fine with it. Like, I get it.
Yeah.
It's a very, very difficult relationship. And we make a little headway in kind of understanding that this episode. So it was really kind of cool to see.
Wanted to point out two little factoids here. One, the ship that that they're pairing up with is called the Merced, both of which are cities in California, and the ships are both California class.
Oh, okay.
So
nice.
Cool little thing there. And also, of course, our Tellarite Captain Durango, that name was also used by Deanna Troi as her character in A Fistful of Datas on the holodeck.
Yes. Yep.
Shit.
Yeah.
No
yeah, it was.
shit.
What a cool, I love the
Good
writers,
callback.
honestly,
Right?
of this. Yeah, it's great. Okay, so we after the yawn, we cut to the title sequence. Again, always gorgeous to see. I always watch it and I'm just, it's pretty.
Here's an interesting thing to note. Here on the left, you can see the underside of the Cerritos, and she's got that yellow circle there.
Right.
And it was explained by McMahon that that's an ops, it's a division color strip. And you can see over here on the Merced, it's blue. So this is a science and, research vessel, whereas the Cerritos is an operational support.
Yeah, perfect for a second contact sort of ship. Like, that has that duty a lot.
Right.
I like it. I didn't know that. I'm sure the ship fans are like, ooh.
Why did they go that route? Because we have never before had ships that actually had their, I guess, duty class color on the ship itself.
Well, we could speculate that just because we've never seen them doesn't mean they didn't exist. Star Trek has always focused on the hero vessel. The hero ship was the Enterprise, which is your all-around command ops science. It did everything. And so kind of did Voyager, even though Voyager was supposed to be a science vessel, and maybe we should have seen that. But I think also McMahon said that he was inspired with this style of ship from the Reliant, and he might be pulling from the movie era. And I believe, and fans can correct me, that when we saw the Grissom had a blue sort of sheen to her as well, which could have indicated a science aptitude, which she was a science vessel. But it could also be that, cartoons kind of need to spell things out a little bit better for the younger viewers. And so, here being able to see this and go, that's yellow, that's blue. We know which one is our ship and which one is the support ship for this episode.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. I love it. I think that getting visual clarity like that is great. I would also love to see like maybe a ship come up that's been compromised and they've turned off their color. Like in my head, this is like a light that you can change, because you're going to have the ship have different functions throughout its life cycle. And so in my head, it's like an LED that you can just like change.
Low output color. That's a good theory.
Yeah.
Too.
And so it'd be cool to have like a ship that's been compromised, like scratch off its name and like turn its light off, and like you don't know, it's like an enemy within type thing.
Another interesting thing to note, we can look at the saucer of the Merced there, and you don't see her name on the front of the saucer like we're used to with other Starfleet ships. And we know on the Cerritos and the Merced, their names are actually on the back side of the saucer, facing people who would see the ship from behind. And so, this episode points it out, like as they're tractoring, of course, any ship that would look out its viewport to see who's tractoring them would be able to read that name, which again, clearly sort of defines this as a support vessel and not the lead ship. Because if you're in front, people are going to read that name on the front of the saucer section.
Yeah. It's also like the saucer section is printed with United or Federation standard alphabet. So if you have like, that is not subjected to universal translation. And it's so true. and so you have, and this is really fucking nerdy to say, but like if you have like a species that doesn't speak like Federation standard, they're going to need visual cues in order to determine what ship is what. They may know going into the situation there's two ships, but it helps the audience to say this is the Cerritos, this is the other one, because these are the exact same ship models. Yes. So it helps the audience here, and it also would help in universe any character that's looking onto the scene or coming up on the scene.
Okay.
Anyway, so yeah, we get this. The second scene is basically her yelling at, or the we actually jumped to the captain's ready room, and Mariner's in there and she's pissing off her mom even more, and like on her way out, Ransom comes in and her mom is like, how are we going to keep her? How are we going to kick her off the ship? And he has the idea, well, why don't we just give her the worst tax on the ship until she transfers? And the captain's like, I have an idea. Why don't we give her the worst jobs on the ship until she transfers? And I understand why they kind of did this, because a lot of times, at least in my experience, like if I have an idea or something, a lot of times it gets repeated from somebody else. And usually that person is a male. And I think in this way, it's like a little bit of mansplaining, where they just like take your idea and repeat exactly what you said. And so I understand, like, they know that this is a thing that happens to women. And so in this instance, they reverse that. And while I think, yeah, sure, it's cool to see an example that's reversed, I don't like that they did it, because it's not a fun thing to have happen to you. You know, you have this idea as XO, and then someone takes that idea and you know, he's obviously very supportive. And I think this is a way of kind of showing that Ransom's character is, he's fine with this because this gets him ahead. He's had this happen before, and he's very Starfleet. Mariner wouldn't let that happen, you know?
Yeah, Mariner got lashed out in the first episode about how they took credit for Boimler's, you know, basically saving the ship because he had all that goo all over him. And Mariner was yelling at the captain about that too.
Yeah. So it's another distinction between Ransom and Mariner. And
yeah, I definitely noticed that and I chuckled, but I'm sort of on the same page with you. It would have been nice for, the captain to be like, you know what, that's a good idea. And then sure, restate the idea. That's fine. But acknowledge where it came from.
Instead of just stealing someone's idea and playing it off as your own, which I guess that's captain's prerogative or something.
I think that, like I said, they put it in because this is something that happens to women all the time. Yep. And now you have the woman who has authority and she does the same thing. Mm-hmm. The joke is that this happens to women all the time.
Yes. Yeah.
And they're playing on that. So if you think it's not, if you feel like it's uncomfortable to you, imagine that happening all the time in real life as a woman.
Right.
Yeah.
And while I appreciate the sentiment that they did that, I still don't like it because I know how it feels.
Yeah.
So.
Good observation.
So we kind of move on. He's like, yeah, great idea, sir. He doesn't care. We go back to the bunks and everyone's talking about their duties for the day, or maybe they like had a shift reassignment or something. So Boimler gets conference room cleanup, which he's super stoked about because there's better replicators. They get like gnocchi and fritters and shit, which I thought was really funny. And at the end, well, I won't spoil that. Of course, you should have seen this before you hear us talking about it. But anyway, we'll get to that later. Rutherford gets tractor beam power system cleanup or something instead of impulse relay.
I know. He wanted to see the different one.
Yeah, which is kind of funny because they're using the tractor beams. I thought that was a cool tie into the episode that he was going to be working on the functionality because it's absolutely vital that the mission continue. Tendi gets this like ascension assignment, maybe it's in her free time or something. Ascension. She got invited and we think it's by Ascension guy and he knew it was going to get fucked up or something. Anyway, so she gets invited to that and she's really, really stoked. And Mariner's looking at her assignment. She's like, I have turbo lift lubing, holodeck waste removal, scratching the carbon off the carbon filters. And he's like, these are the worst jobs on the ship. She's like, something's wrong.
Not yet.
Yeah. We jump over to the Ascension, where Tendi enters and the sand is so pretty. Go back just a second. Can you go back?
Oh, I can't.
Okay,
there's the sand again. That is pretty.
Once it runs, it just runs forever.
Oh, okay.
That's how PowerPoint does.
Yeah. So we actually get a little more insight to the sand later, but Tendi, within literally 30 seconds of stepping into the room, she just completely fucks up this guy's thing. And because she's so curious and just wants to know everything, and she's so sweet and she's trying to fix it. And he's just super pissed. She's like, computer, room temperature sand, colorful.
It just comes down out of the replicator. Yeah. One of the moments here, as somebody who has been working on intercom and things like that, as soon as this guy lost his mind about this incident, and he's talking about how he's been on this path for a decade and it took him 2 years to make the sand, I was like, this guy's a fraud, because you don't just spend a decade cultivating inner peace and have something like this just completely throw it all out the window unless you haven't really stuck to your guns there.
So you knew that he was kind of faking everything.
As soon as he lost his stuff, my brain was like, that's not right. You don't just, I've spent like 3 years in, therapy and, just journaling and getting in tune with my inner emotional state to the point where, things happen and you can either get upset about them like this guy does, or you can just recognize that things happen and constructively respond to them.
Well, but that would have. Go ahead, Big J.
I was just going to say that the other thing that I wanted to call bullshit on is, so he's spent 2 years working on this thing, this sand in his room on the floor, and there has not been any time that the ship hasn't stuttered, jimmied.
Oh, you're so fucking right.
Got hit by a phaser blast somewhere. It's Star Trek. People are flying everywhere every time there's some attack or something. Yeah. This thing would have been screwed up 100 times over. So
this thing would have been screwed up last week when the ship was invaded.
Right. Right.
Yeah, and we know, like we know that, and I think I've looked into this in the past 3 months or so because I was just curious. Like, does the Enterprise crew and TNG, like, do they secure their stuff in their rooms to prevent it from getting just like completely destroyed? Because they have a lot of personal items in there, and we learned that they like don't. Like, I think I remember hearing or seeing that they go back to their rooms and everything's like in disarray. And it's like, why would you rely on inertial dampeners when you know that doesn't work?
You know, like, that doesn't work.
And this guy, like, yeah, it's so funny you say that because look at these candles. I'm sure they're not actual flames, but anyway, you're right. Big J.
Worf uses a real candle in the episode Rightful Heir, where he is like praying to get a vision of Kalis because he feels like he's lost his faith, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And Picard walks in and is like, you could have just done that on the holodeck instead of risking setting your quarters on fire. And Worf explains, like, on the holodeck he wouldn't have seen Kalis. Everything needed to be real. Mm-hmm. So those very well could be real candles. There's a precedent for ritual with real candles in Star Trek.
Yeah. But also he's a fake.
This is not.
It's a fake.
Not untrue. I'm concerned if the air filters can recognize sand.
Oh,
can we filter out replicated particulate?
Mm-hmm. You would think you would have like secured that somehow. Although that also takes away the meaning of its temporary ritualness, like it is delicate, it is sensitive, it is sand. Mm-hmm. It's very particular how you put it together. But
computer, scan the dimensions of the sand in the vicinity of X, Y, and Z and erect a rendered force field around it. Done.
Yeah, protection for sure.
But no, this definitely goes to show that Tendi might be a little accident prone. She definitely is well intentioned, but also she is literally green around the gills.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think she's necessarily like Merry and Pippin level of I'm gonna fuck up story or because I've said this before, in Lord of the Rings they function as like they basically cue conflict, and I don't think that Tendi is that kind of character, because this is the first time I think we've seen her actually mess things up like this. She's otherwise a very competent medical officer.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
But yeah, she is a little green around the gills. I agree.
We'll just wait for a Palantir to show up in Star Trek and see what she does with that.
So after this scene, we get to go to the hallway, and Mariner is starting her duties, and Boimler is like, I'm gonna go do my thing, and he's doing the thing. And she's like, it doesn't look cool, and the door closes. She's like, oh, it totally does.
Yeah.
That was funny. So first up is holodeck waste removal.
Yep.
The pads look so pretty.
They do. They look nice.
So one of the cool things about this is, if we followed along in TNG, we knew that the colors in TNG were more pink pastel shades, purples, oranges. Mm-hmm. But once we get to Nemesis, which is 2379, just a year before this, it does go blue. And so it's good continuity that they stuck with the blue coloring instead of recycling the TNG coloring.
Yes. Once again, this show is made by Trek nerds, and it's so good.
Well, right. You got to think that they upgraded the LCARS version at some point in there. I mean, if they follow the Microsoft path like we do now, you're going to get an upgrade and a new version every year. So yes, the least we could do is go to a new version of LCARS
okay.
10.
Okay, so what's up with that LCARS number? The start date at the beginning of the episode is 57538.9.
Yeah, I was just gonna motion that too. I'm not sure. Maybe
it's a version.
No, it's definitely a star date. It's absolutely a star date. It's just a lot. it's a bit in the past for.
So I think it's Elcar's version came out on this day. Like it was the last update.
That could be right, and that would represent almost 100th of a year. So a month? No, like 3 days.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Probably.
I can't calculate start dates in my head. I use a math for it.
Yeah.
But no, that's definitely an interesting thing to point out, and I think you're right. I think that would be like Windows January 11th, 2020.
Yes.
The equivalent of that.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I just realized we haven't said this the last few episodes, but if you're listening to us on Anchor.fm or Spotify, anywhere you can hear the audio version of our podcast, we also watch basically we review this with screenshots on YouTube. So you can actually watch us have discussions. So check us out on YouTube if you would like to see that.
Yeah. And
just so you don't get left out of anything.
Try to do a better job of describing what we're looking at so our audio listeners aren't like, what's going on?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
We kind of forget that sometimes. Take it for granted.
Yeah. So we're just looking at Mariner's pad and marveling at how blue and pretty it is.
Mm-hmm. We love a good detailed pad view so we can see the kind of layouts because we just, Elcars. We love it.
I wanted to call back to that scene where she's yawning at the beginning and say that, we know she's hamming it up there and a lot of people might be onto us. But we know how tired is animated on the ship with the dark patches under the eyes. Mm-hmm. So that's one way that we know that Mariner is acting on that. But also another thing is she's totally an augment.
Yeah, I actually have evidence noted in my notes for this episode.
Cool. Because I'm over here some people are gonna be like, no, she yawned. That means she's tired. And I'm like, no. The writers are just onto us. They're throwing stuff out there.
Well, they ask her at the beginning, did you have trouble sleeping? And she's like, no, I slept great, probably too well. She's just being a jerk. She even says it's because it's boring. So so her first duty today is holodeck waste removal, which gross.
Yep. Then
turbo lift lubing.
Mm-hmm.
I love this part here.
Yes, it's like this little cock gun.
And it's at work, and he's just like, I'm going in.
It's the sign. I'm chief of security. Fuck a security sign.
Yeah.
What the hell? And then she yells at him computer emergency, stop. And she's like, I'm working up here.
Sorry. This goes on for a while. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a little montage of her work day. And she's like, hey, you want to make this interesting? And they're like, yeah, we would love to. We're all bored as shit. We all have the worst job on this ship.
Yeah.
Ransom witnesses. Look at her. Of course, this is augment evidence number one. He finishes first. And, people say she's a Mary Sue, but I think in this instant, first of all, I don't believe she's Mary Sue. I've said this before. I think it's Mary Sue's thrown around today.
It's overused.
It's overused. And yeah, often I think it's because people just don't like something or a character for whatever reason. So they call them a Mary Sue without actually thinking critically about it. But in this instance, her augment shit comes forward and she clearly finishes before everyone.
Yeah.
Ransom, for some reason, is doing his rounds down there and he witnesses her celebrating and having fun. And he's like, his eyes narrow. It's just so funny.
When they're cleaning the carbon filters, that's the kind of job that I expected when people are like, I'm going to have you scrubbing plasma conduits. Just as that note of the worst jobs on the ship, and cleaning the carbon filter, definitely one of them. And it looks just like a giant a filter that you'd pull out of a car.
It looks really satisfying, honestly.
Like a furnace filter.
All you have to do is point a freaking phaser at it at the right frequency and it carves it out. It looks really satisfying.
I do like how they're turning the phaser away from they're showing us that the phaser can also be a tool as opposed to just a defensive weapon, because in the last episode they used it to clean the graffiti off the hull of the ship and the inside of the ship, and now they're using it to clean out the carbon filter. I do like that they're adding versatility to the phaser.
Making it a multi-purpose tool was a good call.
Must have been invented by the Swiss.
Yeah, I wonder if she's using that purple one. That's why she got ahead.
Oh, she had that purple tricorder.
Yeah, the purple tricorder with the stripe.
Yeah, I hope that comes back. And I hope that little energy thing that went inside her mom comes back too. Because I'm like, I need closure.
Yeah, we need to have things tied up like at the end of that. And I'm sure they will. I'm sure this writing.
They're letting, but they're I think getting a bit too much distance away from that before coming back around to it, because for something that was a blink and you'll miss it scene, there's already been several episodes that since that has happened, and unless they do a little recap planned, I'm starting to think that we're getting too far away from when that happened if they're going to go back to it. And it was such a quick little thing that I think that needs to be hit soon.
Yeah, I agree.
Otherwise, you're going to have already forgotten about it. And wasn't that was the start of the second episode, right?
It was the beginning of the second episode, and you're correct in that a lot of time has passed for the audience, but a lot of time has also passed in universe as well.
Yes. Between
that happening, and maybe like it's going to be justified later. I'll be very interested to see how they kind of tie that up, because the creature that comes on board is full size, totally ready to fuck shit up, and he gets Mariner, and Mariner reduces him to a little tiny pinpoint of light, and so we know he's very weak. So maybe he's like regaining strength or something. Okay. Who knows? I mean, yeah, you're right, Big J. I completely agree. It's going to be a lot of time has passed, and maybe we'll see next episode.
Okay.
To offer a counter perspective there, I'm also okay with that little scene being a joke and a just another way that they have subverted the all-powerful energy being, and they're not always all-powerful, and sometimes they can just be whoop, done. We're done with you. And
maybe
so,
you're right.
Even if they tie it in, that's great. If they don't, I accept it as the joke that it was.
Yeah, and maybe we say like Captain Freeman is such a cold-hearted like badass that she just like consumed him.
Yeah, she metabolized him. Done.
She metabolized him.
That's why she had all the energy to run around the ship in the next episode.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm trying to read my notes and see if there's anything that I haven't mentioned yet. I think whatever, we're going.
Yeah, so the next scene is kind of a small little blip. We see the chief engineer sinking power beams. I love this scene. It's so professional and so bridge-like. It's just like everything is nominal. Like all readings are good. I love the chief engineer. He's like so funny. He's just like a chill dude, and he's letting Rutherford kind of take over in the calibrations, and you can tell he's loving it, and he's just trying to foster his development as an engineer.
And Rutherford's enjoying these readouts, not as much as he was going to enjoy the other readouts that he had expected.
He's totally he is. Yeah, you're right. That's a great, again, it's another tie-in to what Rutherford's doing. It's like they keep track of what everyone's doing and how it relates to the ship mission. It's great. After this scene, we hop over to the Ascension dude's room, and Tendi is apologizing and saying, hey, I got you this like cool metronome, again, a space metronome, like space shovels and space hose. And this should help. And he's like, you think that this is going to fix 10 years of spiritual alignment? Smashes it and slams the door in her face. And at the beginning, he was setting a boundary. I will say, he was saying, it's okay, just don't talk to me. And he tries to close the door. And Tendi pushes past that boundary and she gets, this is what happened when you push past boundaries. People get pissed off.
Yeah. That's a good observation.
Yeah. And so he smashes it.
Yeah, he smashes the metronome, and Tendi is crushed, but she's also not yet respecting others' boundaries. She's more focused on why don't you like me, and not understanding that those kinds of boundary violations are probably the reasons why people are not super impressed.
Poor Tendi. We know she has good intentions, but that's another case where your intentions, if you don't really understand that intentions aren't the same as outcomes, Like, you know, you just lack a little self-awareness, which she's a very young ensign. That's fine. Okay, so we jump over to the bridge. Freeman's like, hey, has Mariner quit yet? And he's like, actually, she's having a great time and finding fun in these menial tasks. He's like, what do you have her doing? You need to pick something worse. And he's like, I have her emptying beep out of a holodeck beep filter.
And they walk into her office and she's like, is that really what they use it for? And he's like, yeah, that's pretty much the only thing they use it for.
Captain Freeman, come on. And she's like, how do I get her to just quit? And then she looks in the reflection and Ransom's like flexing. And she's like, oh, now I know. It was just like a weird, it's just like, I don't know. I thought it was hilarious how he's like, no one's looking. I'm going to check myself out.
Yeah.
it totally still continues the Riker on speed metaphor.
Absolutely. And it's very in character, as we saw in the episode where he rips his shirt off and Kool-Aid fans through a door.
Glistening muscles.
Yeah.
Glistening ethics.
Her big idea.
And the idea is not to keep giving her all the trash assignments, but to promote her.
Mm-hmm.
And we have this ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
We go to the observation lounge.
Yeah.
Boimler's there. He's getting his Twitch on. He's like, what's going on?
Yeah. She's like, oh, you guys talking about the Prime Directive again? They laugh at her, or they laugh with her, and she hates it. And then the glowing box of a new Pip. And they hand her a yellow uniform, and I need your guys' help with this. Like, why did they change her uniform?
I don't know.
There's no reason to. I mean, yes, there are times where a promotion may come with a department change. It was like with Worf. He season 1 of TNG, he's in the red uniform. He was a lieutenant junior grade, so he had one solid gold and one hollowed out gold pip. When we get to the second season, he's made chief of security, and now he carries the rank of lieutenant. And security officers.
Go ahead.
So security officers, technically they're part of security and operations, were gold. So he changed his uniform. Geordi, same thing. He got the same promotion. He went from red to gold as well because he changed departments. Now, there are certainly times where you'll get a promotion, but you don't change departments. So you're in the same, you don't change departments or structure. So you're in the same color. Now, for her to have gone from the red to the gold, I don't know. She went from
command to ops.
Right, command to ops.
It could have been a narrative decision to change her uniform so we see her in a different color and the audience understands that she's out of place.
Right. Yeah. Yes.
Because a small little yellow pip is not. Yeah, it's like it's exactly like the ships having a gold and a blue beam. It's like the exact same thing.
Yeah. It's to help the audience to see that, especially if you're not. If you haven't done the deep dive of Star Trek like some of the fans, where you may not know what that extra pip, she's getting promoted, but for the rest of the audience, it is this is obviously a big change for her because they went and changed her uniform color. So I just think it's their way of giving within the animation, giving as much visuals to differentiate what's happening. They did it to differentiate the two ships that looked like because they're in the same class. They're doing it with Mariner to show you that she got promoted and now her job and role has completely changed because now she's in a different uniform color.
Yeah. I also thought it was interesting in her ready room. She was waxing, not Mariner, but Freeman was like going on about a new plaque for her, and I was like, she's got a thing with plaques because she gave Boimler a plaque. She just likes plaques.
Of course, you'll be on the plaque, Durango.
Yeah, exactly. So Boimler's flipping out that she just got this promotion right in front of her, and Mom's like, now you get to do everything we do, and
Look at her face. I feel
She's
so
so
bad for her.
defeated. She's done.
And this is a prime example of why she's not a Mary Sue. She hates being where she is. Like, she's causing trouble where she is. She's she doesn't accept the validation of this promotion. Look at Ransom's face. He's like, what is she doing here? Oh, she's wearing red. Oh, this is because she just sat down.
She just sat down. She hasn't put it on yet. And they're talking about their new chairs, and she's totally done.
Yeah. We decided we need to choose new conference chairs, a base chair with a strip of leather down the middle. And then Tana's like, we all agreed a strip of leather is too ostentatious.
What about bar stools?
He wants bar stools. And the engineer says that Shax just isn't sitting on them right. And Shax is like, he's killed men for insulting him for this.
No, you haven't. Okay, well, I've threatened men for suggesting as much.
Yeah, and it's funny because Freeman knows that this is stupid shit, and she's like, strap in, Mariner, this will last a long time.
This is just this is definitely the way that you reduce Mariner down. And again, it defies that Mary Sue stereotype again, because Mary Sues are universally loved. If everybody just loved and cheered on Mariner this whole time, she would be more towards that stereotype. But she bristles against control and the grain. The senior staff clearly doesn't think too highly of her. In the last episode, Ransom is just so done with her everything. Like, when he just walks in and she's like yelling at him, he just scoops her up and leaves. You're on my team. I got to do this. Puts her in
the brig for something small, like
right. Her sleeves keep being
Mary Sue
rolled up.
Would never have been treated like that. Yeah. So the next scene is like a montage again. So we see Mariner in her room.
Boimler's losing it.
Yeah.
Oh wait, did I go back? I'm sorry.
Oh, it's fine.
This is good.
What a good shot.
This is good.
Funny. Oh, poor Mariner. She's like, now I'm actually tired.
Yeah, I'm done.
So yeah, we get to see a montage. She gets her own quarters, which anyone want to talk about that painting?
I do, and I have a slide for it after this.
Okay, great. Freeman's like, we're going to get a plaque for this. Ransom calls her to the audit, and now we're going to audit the audit. She has to go to the officer's lounge for training. It's a day in the life of her as an officer, basically, is what we see. We go to the lounge. Oh,
I want to go into the painting, and then we'll go into some of the other stuff that she has to endure.
That painting is insane.
But if you're listening to us, there's a user. I'm gonna apologize to him ahead of time because I'm not sure how to pronounce his name. I believe it is Jörg Hillebrandt, at GachYogi49 on Twitter, pointed out that the painting in the back of Mariner's room was also used twice in 2 other episodes of Star Trek The Next Generation, once in Best of Both Worlds and another in The Bonding. If you're listening to us, we have a comparison of Mariner's room with the 2 episodes that I just cited. And the user on Twitter posted the same thing to Facebook, and Rick Sternbach, the artist for that painting, responded and basically was like, well, first it was Cetacean Ops, now this. And Rick Sternbach was the guy who threw out the Cetacean Ops could be a thing. He goes on to say, seems I have more stuff showing up in Lower Decks than I thought, happy face. The original painting was a cover I did in 1976 for F and SF magazine for the Greg Benford and Gordon Eklund novella Anvil of Jove, depicting a balloon-borne spacecraft in Jupiter's atmosphere. I lent the image to our TNG set decorator John Dwyer, along with a handful of other SF and space images. A big thumbs up to the Lower Decks folks for the nod. Ricky's waving high. These pics transmitted to me through the ether by the ever sharp-eyed Jörg Hillebrandt. Happy face.
What a freaking cool thing.
Wow.
Yeah. How cool is that?
What a great eye to spot that. And I remember watching it originally going, that's a really cool painting. I bet they got that from somewhere.
It's very specific.
Yeah.
Like,
yes.
It's not just like a space landscape. Like, that's so cool.
That is sweet.
It's a cool callback, cool call out, and I'm glad that we definitely follow this guy on Twitter. He has a lot of cool insights.
So it's interesting that this painting was also in a scene, because I'm sure there's a ton of paintings in Trek that they could have done this with, but this is a scene at the bottom with oh my god, what was her name? Shelby as a command track officer, and Riker as a command track officer, and I just feel like it's interesting. I don't know what the middle one is, but
that's the bonding where Worf takes into his custody the child of Marla Astor, who died on an away team under his command. And he sort of inducts Jeremy into his house as a way to honor Marla's memory, his mother.
Okay. Interesting.
So there definitely might be some parallels between the themes of these 3 episodes that I didn't even bother to think deeply into, which is a lapse on my end, because now I have to be like, oh, okay, I'm going to spend more time on this.
It could also just be a simple homage too.
Yeah. So. Hey, Dag, real quick, you might have to help me on this one, but Commander Shelby, was her first name Elizabeth, or was that the first name of the actress who played her? Because I know the actress played her is Dennehy, and I'm I don't have I can't look it up. I don't have my phone with me. And that's bothering me because
Elizabeth Hannah Dene is the actress.
Yep. Shelby
Dennehy,
does
Brian
not.
Dennehy's daughter, right? Yeah.
Yes. So Commander Shelby does not have a first name established in her episodes.
Okay. That's what it was.
However, she is featured heavily in Peter David's work. When Peter David is an author, he wrote Vendetta, and he also writes the New Frontier series.
Right.
And her full name in beta canon is established as Elizabeth Paula Shelby.
Okay, so I was kind of right. I knew I had seen that name associated with the character, and I knew that was the actress's first name. And I thought, okay, wait a minute, maybe they used the same first name. So that, yes, sorry, didn't mean to derail us there. That was just, I was trying to make sure I gave the right name.
Something that's also really cool is in Star Trek Starship Creator. It goes on to talk about her parents, and her dad's name is Brian.
Okay, well, yeah, right.
Pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty cool. All right. Where are we?
We are continuing the montage, and she's headed to the lounge for training, which is where her mom is singing jazz. And then we also get to see a crewman who's doing like the United Federation of Characters. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you beam in there.
Yeah.
I don't know whether that's hilarious.
This picture's hilarious.
She goes back to her room. Oh, executive poker time. Of course they're playing poker.
Yeah.
You know, such a Star Trek thing.
The way she rolled off that bed was that was just the best. That is how I feel every morning before work.
Mm-hmm.
I notice here they're only holding 4 cards. So what kind of poker is this?
Isn't that how you play poker?
Yeah,
it's a friendly game.
No,
Ransom makes this kissy sound.
They don't have any cards on the table. They're not. It's not like they're not playing Texas Hold'em. They're playing the traditional 5, either 5 stud or 5 draw. I love that Shax is wearing glasses here, like his eyes are going to give away what his hand is.
Well, yeah, they've only got 4 cards. I noticed that. I don't know what kind of poker you'd be playing. That's only 4 cards.
They all fold, and Mariner's like, she's all in. Shax is like, this is a friendly game. We don't go all in. I'm like, what kind of? It's not poker then.
Yeah, at every moment she's defeated. Every way she tries to act out, they're like, oh, haha, you're so funny. And then it was such a great approach for her mom to do it this way, sort of the reverse psychology. Like, oh, we're not going to give you the trash jobs. We're going to make you an officer, and you're going to be subject to all the monotony that we have to deal with. To discussions about chairs and poker and stand-up night and.
Why were they losing on purpose?
Because that's not how it normally goes. This is a temporary acceptance of Mariner.
Yeah.
There's a reason she's not promoted. It's because Starfleet doesn't accept her the way she is. And so for her to be like accepted in this way as command, she likes that she's not accepted. We'll get that straight first. She likes that
keep her where she is.
Yes.
Where she wants to be.
Yes.
That's why they were losing the poker. Well, that's why they were losing the poker game. The rest of them kept losing on purpose.
I don't know why everybody was folding.
She started the bet in the carbon filter scraping scene because it was boring. And here she tries to up the stakes and they don't let her.
Okay.
There's no excitement for her. They took all the excitement away, and they took it away, and they claimed it for themselves. Like, Mom is, look at this grin. Mom is pleased and expecting Mariner to be like, I'm done. Game. I'm transferring out.
But Mariner knows what she's doing.
One thing to note, the cards here depict the second appearance of the Star Trek font, the classic original series font. The cards have the numbers in the classic original series font. Really? And that was only seen one other time in TNG Season 2, Episode 1, The Child, when Deanna takes her son, Ian Andrew, to the onboard nursery. And there's the alphabet posted on the wall, and it is also featuring the original series script.
Ooh, good catch.
It was really interesting. Somebody posted the cards on Twitter. It was like, is this the first time we've seen this? And Michael Okuda himself posted the image from The Child.
Cool.
Oh, okay.
I think that's how it went, or maybe not.
Right.
Maybe I'm sensationalizing it because I worship Michael Okuda. If you don't know who Michael Okuda is, he's been working with Star Trek since the original series, if not the movies as well. He's responsible for all the Okudagrams, the number 47 popping up pretty much everywhere. He's really awesome. He also helped compile and write most of the technical manuals, the encyclopedia, with his wife, Denise. So high five, Michael. We love you.
Hope you're listening.
And so we get Tendi frustrated with everything that's happening.
Yeah, she has like mala beads and books and candles and stuff. She's clearly educating herself on ascending so she can help him. And then she's like, you can have the rest of my lunch. I'm going to go talk to him. He's like, yeah, pudding.
Yay. I love tacos. Tacos are great.
Yeah, I'm starving. That looks amazing. Even though they're like baby tacos. So Mariner, we go back to Mariner's quarters after this. She hates it. Boimler stops by. He's like, you have everything here like that I wanted. Da, 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 da. Why did they give this to you? And she's like, I gotta go to ops to report for the review of scheduled ops. And Boimler stays in the thing. And he's like, oh, he gets the idea to misbehave so he can get promoted, which is what she did.
Oh man, I wish they followed up on what he's about to do too, because that would have been a great thing to see.
They did.
They showed us what he did, and I want to follow up to that.
Okay, well, he gets the idea here, then he gets called to the bridge, and he reiterates that, and then he goes to the bridge and does what he's going to do. So we'll get there, but yeah, so we go back to Tendi's looking tired because she's stressed. She has bees and incense and engineering, and this guy's getting pissed at her. Calls her the villain. Calls her the villain, actually. And she's like, I'll align your chakra. I'll Reiki you. Or Reiki, which is so funny to me because as a person who like is involved in that kind of study, she's not certified in Reiki, and so you shouldn't be doing it if you're not certified.
One thing that's really interesting also here is she's chanting Utike Siculorum Lapsu, which is Latin for, of course, the lapse, which is gibberish, which is what I'd expect somebody who doesn't speak Latin as a first or second language might just pick up words that sound cool.
Threading words together to make a sentence.
And she also mentions that the Florca bees she unleashes on him are essential to the Tamarian ascension process. If you remember the Tamarians from the episode Darmok, these are your Darmok and Gelada Tanagra. So they have some kind of ascension process that they use that requires bees.
She's so tired. Little cinnamon bun. Please like me.
She's worn out.
Yeah. So we go to the hallway where Boimler is walking down, and they're like, "Come to the bridge for something." And he's like, "I'll come to the bridge and look at exactly what they deserve." And it turns out the comm was on. I just thought that was really funny how they did it.
And he's like, "Oh, that was the holodeck. Moriarty."
Yeah.
Which means Moriarty's exploits are known about.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, everything from the Enterprise is mythical.
Oh yeah.
So.
Oh yeah.
We cut to the captain's ready room where Mariner comes in, and her mom's like, "Hey, I can transfer if you don't like it here." She's like, "No, I know exactly what you're doing." She's like, "We need to report to somewhere for Ransom's birthday later. He's going to sing and play acoustic guitar for hours." He wrote all the songs himself about the time he was in, I think, Barcelona or something.
Barcelona. Yeah. She pronounces it right, which is nice.
Yeah. And she's like, "I'm being a captain." Well, Mariner's like, "I know what you're doing." And she's like, "I'm being a captain. That's what I'm doing." And she's like, "No, you're being a dick," which is kind of literally like you can see Freeman like pulling back a little. It's almost like this whole thing is like a lighthearted joke to them, to the like they're making it a lot more lighthearted now. And Mariner like calls her out immediately, and it's like they have a lot more easygoing of a relationship than the writers make us think. In this scene, I like how they opened up the relationship here.
Ah, another love letter.
Beautiful shot.
Nice shot of the ships.
Oh,
then we get that further blue versus yellow lighting underneath. But yeah, it's at this moment that Durango's like, I want to be in charge of this mission. I want all the glory.
He gets bored. He's looking at a picture of Freeman. Is like,
And of course he gets
antsy. I'm gonna maneuver this situation to make me look better. And he doesn't. He obviously is not better. He ends up fucking everything up.
Yep. Stubborn Tellarite.
Starts pulling a panel off of the generation ship. And pretty boy Ransom is just chatting it up when
there's no peninsula more central than the Iberian.
It's Barcelona. But he also has a picture of Durango up on the view screen before he tells him he's out of formation.
Yeah, he actually calls him out. Like, I think that Ransom is a great commander. Like, I think he's a good commander. He knows what he's doing. Very Starfleet. And he's like, "You're out of line." And then he knows he's out of line and that things are configured to be how they are for a reason, because this is an old ship. And then things go haywire. The orange goo spills out of the hull of the generation ship. I don't think it's so much spilling out and exploding as it is being pulled by the tractor beam.
Right.
Yes.
It's being pulled into the ship.
Yeah. Then it comes into contact with the inorganic material of the hull and the bulkhead, and it starts to terraform the entire, what is Durango's ship called? Do we know?
Merced.
The Merced. So the Durango is getting completely destroyed. They lose contact with the Cerritos. The Cerritos starts to get it's tractoring the material towards itself as well, and it comes into contact with the ship. Now, it's not as damaged because it was farther away from the point of the event, but it still is heavily damaged.
It's real interesting to me here. They've got the tractor beam going, and Ransom orders for evasive maneuver alpha. And I'm like, with the tractor beam still attached to the other ship, you're just going to draw it towards you still. And I'm wondering if evasive maneuver alpha would have been the appropriate order for that holodeck thing he ran with Rutherford, where there's like a rock in their path. And Rutherford's like the Janeway maneuver instead of just evasive maneuver alpha, which would have dodged the big rock. So I just think I'm making the callback. I don't know if that's actually what would have happened, but evading gel while you have a tractor beam attached, I think the appropriate order should have been disengage tractor beam
and activate deflector beam.
Right. Disengage tractor beam and take us away from the other ship.
Yeah, I think he was panicking a little, which I don't know. I don't actually know if he was panicking. I think it was a plot device. So
Yes.
is what happened.
It's what the plot needed.
And right when we needed it the most, Boimler
spills coffee as he's making the order, and look at his face.
Pours it. He just pours it on Ransom's groin, and groin just grabs it and goes, "Are you insane?"
Oh God! This is a class. It's like horrible. A very big blunder. And it's I have secondhand embarrassment watching this, but once again, Boimler's like, "Oh, I'm going to go buy Mariner's book," but he doesn't have the nuance of Mariner.
Right.
Like it's back to like the first couple episodes where they got a lot more time together. And so, yes, he's spoils coffee in a very TNG fashion, with the new ensign in engineering spilling coffee on Picard. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. That was hot chocolate. Yeah. I remember that.
Yep.
That was season 2 Q Who.
Yeah. This was a good kind of a callback to that.
Geordi's possible love interests who kept spilling stuff on people.
Yeah.
This is the part that I wanted to see followed up on. Like, he grabs him and he chews him out, but was anything else done? did he like scream at him off screen? Did Boimler get his plaque revoked? I wanted to know more about how Ransom would have dealt with Boimler in this incident, because this is pretty stupid of Boimler in the middle of, what is turning into a crisis for the ship. He's just like, I'm gonna do this thing, and not even paying attention. He's only caring about himself in this moment.
And Sonia Gomez was the officer in engineering we were talking about in Q, who kept spilling hot chocolate.
Mm-hmm. And I think she had 2 or 3 episodes.
I want to say 2 for sure. Yeah, I believe 2. Don't know about a third, but yeah, 2.
Mm-hmm. So after this scene, good job, Boimler. We cut to the ready room where Mariner and her mother were talking, and the Cerritos begins to be terraformed. And this is another instance of augment evidence for Mariner. She can smell the differences in the air around them. The humidity is going up, the pressure is dropping. She's able to sense this happening. And not like myself, who gets migraines when storms are coming in. It's not the same thing. But
it's going to rain. I'm getting migraines.
Oh, it's going to rain. Lottie's she's fucked up almost for sure. Springtime's real fun. Anyway, so we see a really cool montage again of the Cerritos getting destroyed by this terraforming. We get to see Mariner obviously this is augment evidence. She can sense this is happening. We see Sam Rutherford's HUD, which is really, really cool. We get to see like a pink overlay with his Vulcan implant where you can it's like a grid. We know it's him because we're running. Yeah, right here.
Yeah.
Look how cool that is.
This is a great sequence here, because I need to know what's happened in Starfleet that the ship actually has a sensor and a detector and an alarm for unauthorized terraforming. Like, did they get back from Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, where Genesis exploded? And Kirk was like, as a side note, we just need to know when the ship's about to terraform itself. So we'll just add that in as alert too. Like, how did this happen?
Yeah.
Does this happen a lot?
I would think on every update of LCARS, the computer gets an update of all the weird shit that's going on out in the galaxy. Yes. And everyone's like, we should probably key this in as a possibility.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Because there are lots of ships out there experiencing all kinds of crazy stuff. So they are taking all this info and preparing everyone for something that might happen down the line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, engineering, the warp car starts to get in trouble, flooded basically, which I'm sure there has been emergency seals happening to prevent the actual warpness from getting hurt. But
it's bad, but it can't be too bad.
Yeah, because there's not a warp breach. We know that that's the worst thing that can happen on a starship. Right. Anyway, so Tendi and the Ascension guy, which I don't think we ever learn his name.
O'Connor.
his name's O'Connor. It's funny because he calls himself the Ascension guy later. I was the Ascension guy. That's what made me special. And that's how I have him in my notes, because I didn't know that it was actually, he had actually had a name. But a pink thing like manifests from the terraforming and explodes. And so, he tells Tendi, like, as they think they're going to die, that like, I was faking it this whole time. Mm-hmm. He used her as cover because he knew that he wasn't actually ascending. He just admits to her that he's a fraud and that he invited her because he knew that she was going to fuck it up.
And she's like, did we just become?
That's okay. That's okay. Like we fucked up too. And he's like, she's hugging me. She's so funny. She's like, he likes me now. He's admitted to me that it's all okay. I'm okay.
What happened?
There we go.
Already been here. Okay.
Yeah. Any thoughts on this scene?
I really like the Tendi's eternal optimism. She's always looking for that solution that means that everybody gets along.
Yeah.
I'm curious as to why acceptance is such a big deal for her, because it really, you could see some of that in prior episodes, but it really seemed to amplify in this one, that she is really looking for that acceptance and for everyone to like her. And I'm just curious if we're going to get a little more background as to why is that? Why is acceptance so high on her list?
She's the opposite of Mariner.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder. Go ahead.
Well, I think she's an Orion, first of all. And what we know about Orion women is that they have pheromones that they have to keep in check. Otherwise, they will influence people around them.
Right.
And so I think it might have, I would love to learn more about Tendi and kind of what she has to do in order to level that out. And so I think she still wants everyone to like her, but she wants it to happen organically. Mm-hmm. But anyway, Dag, what were you going to say? That's as far as
I was actually going to say something very similar to what you just said. Cool. So good call on that. Like, I think as an Orion woman being born and raised where she is, there might have been pressures to be a people pleaser. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people can relate to the idea of consummate people pleasing, but a lot of people also don't always get the feedback that they're doing it right, and that's what leads to sort of that corruption of that desire. It's like, I have to please everybody, but I also need the validation. Somebody tell me I'm doing okay. Please tell me I'm a good friend, please. and that's about where Tendi is here. She can go from 0 to 100 real quick, as we've seen. She's fine with Rutherford. She's fine with Boimler. She's fine with Mariner. But as soon as this guy gets mad at her for screwing up, that's when she starts, breaching those boundaries that we mentioned before in her pursuit of the validation. Mm-hmm. And not a lot of people can just be like, look, you messed with my shtick and you're in my face, and I just need you to go away for a while and I'll figure this out. And I'll tell you when it's cool again. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But it worked out way better, because nothing's better than hugging in a warp core that's being drowned by coral while your ship is being terraformed by orange goo.
Yeah, she really is hyper focused. Nothing else matters to her other than being liked.
Right.
So we head over to the Jeffries tubes, where Mariner and her mom, the captain, are carving through this rock that's been terraformed, and her mom just does not let go. Mm-hmm. Anything. This is another case of evidence for Mariner being an augment, because she punches through a rock wall. Mm-hmm. And honestly, like, this whole scene really, I hate to say this, but I kind of know what it's like to have a relationship like this with a parent, and honestly, no wonder that Mariner acts the way she does, because her mom nitpicks literally every single thing she does. She wants to stay as far away from her mom as possible, which is why she wants to be in lower decks. She's happy there. She doesn't have to deal with like the overbearingness of her mother.
The nitpicking and the nagging.
the nitpicking and the nagging, and your rock isn't sharp enough and you're going too fast down these vines. Are you trying to get us killed? No wonder she doesn't vibe with her mom. Like, and her mom plays these games with her too. From the very first episode, her mom is trying to keep tabs on her. Like, it's not a healthy relationship, and Mariner's extremely capable. And so she's just trying to distance herself from her mom. And we find out Freeman's first name is used here as Carol. She's like, how dare you call me that?
Oh, she called her. Yeah. Did you just call me Carol? Whatever, Carol.
Yeah. She's like, she's using it in a way that a parent would say, like, your middle name.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
One of the things that I really took away from this moment with them is it's just reminding me so much more again of Bashir's relationship with his parents and why he wanted to get as far away as possible from them, because they couldn't accept him as anything less than perfect when he was struggling with his own pre-augment mental health issues or development issues. And he got his treatment as his augmentation, and suddenly he's the smartest in the class, the fastest, the most focused, and then his parents start resenting him for it. Like, his dad like snaps at him because he's like, oh yeah, you had to be better than everybody, and Bashir's like, yeah, but isn't that what you wanted? It's not my fault that you did this to me, and suddenly I am everything you wanted, and that includes better than you. I'm paraphrasing, of course, but just because we are sort of following these bird crumbs that suggest that Mariner might be an augment, I'm seeing these mirrors between Mariner's relationship with her mom, Bashir's relationship with his parents, and the fact that Bashir had to dumb himself down in order to not reveal too much is very much the same way that Mariner's mom keeps trying to limit and micromanage and don't go too fast and don't do these things that are going to reveal yourself. I don't even know if the mom knows. Again, this is all speculation based on some cool observations. But yeah, it's there.
Yep, for sure. They were grapple.
Repel. Whatever.
Where's Arvon?
When they
repelled down.
When they emerged from the Jeffries tube into the turbo lift shaft, I felt very strong Genesis Cave vibes from Star Trek 3: The Search for Spock with the waterfalls, and that was very cool. The only thing that was missing there was an apple.
Oh yes.
Yeah, that'd be cool to see the fruit. So we go back to the engineering, and there's another pink explosion. Tendi's like, I've had it. She goes, swims down, grabs one, throws it at the wall, and explodes the wall. They get washed out. They washed out, and then there's a falling rock, and he saves Tendi, and he's like, I did this for you. And her no, like her like no is really dramatic. It's so funny. I don't know why it's funny to me. It's funny to me though.
He gets crushed by the rock, and this is it right there. So on screen we've got
such a classic trick, rock crushing.
Tendi kneeling next to him. He's crushed by the rock, and he appears unconscious, and she's crying and screaming. And it's very much the God moment for Tendi.
I
wanted to point this out while we get there. If you're listening to us, we have on screen the sand mandala that was present in O'Connor's quarters, and it looks like a human ascending in the silhouette of a bird with some lights and things around it. And as we understand towards, when he ascends, he sees this koala with the glowing eyes, and you can actually kind of make out the outline of that koala in the sand mandala.
Yes.
So a koala mandala is what I want to call that.
Let's go with it.
Yeah.
It totally works.
Yeah.
I just thought that was really cool.
I've seen that koala before in the right. I don't know. It looks very familiar to me. Well, maybe I've seen him in my meditations before.
Wasn't there a show on Nickelodeon that had like two koalas, a brother and a sister?
Maybe.
Something
Possibly.
Gosh, I'm gonna have to look that up.
I don't know.
Single digits.
I was a Angry Beavers kid, so. We don't see the ascension quite yet. However, we will get there towards the end. I thought that was
young.
a really
I grew up on Danger Mouse.
Danger Mouse.
we hop over to the transporter room where Mariner and her mom exit into from the Jeffries tubes, and Mariner says that the ship is saturated with carbon dust. We need pyrazine gas to flood the ship with, and then trigger a reversion from the main deflector
with radiation.
They have like a moment because Mariner's like, "What? Is that a dumb idea to you?" And she's like, "No, I'm impressed. That was my idea. Did you read my mission brief?" And she's like, No, I didn't.
Maybe ironically,
which is funny that they're like checking each other's work. I just think it's funny.
This goo, man.
Yeah. So she says that they're going to trigger a reversion, which a deflector shield is always like the bay when it comes to stuff like that.
Right.
But yeah, they like check their work a little bit, and the Freeman's like, "Computer, hit it," and the computer's like, "Hitting it," which I thought was fucking.
Yeah, that was really cool. And I like when they clean up the conference room. We see our bowling friend here who had been stabbed.
He was hiding.
He's so
by a
scared.
spear.
Look at him. Oh.
Yeah. Really, really cool. Just
that's funny.
The background characters persist.
Yeah, this episode's sponsored by Nickelodeon. It's not, but.
So we go back to Tendi and O'Connor, and the rock disappears into goo, and they're like, "Hey, everything's cool again, yay!" And they actually share a kiss.
Yeah, I thought that was weird. I don't.
It was
really
a little out of place there, but I'm all like Tendiford, so leave me alone.
Tendiford. Yeah, he's like, "I'm ascending. Wow, I guess I wasn't faking it this whole time." And he's like, "It's because you saved me." And he's like, "Wow, this actually hurts. I fucking hate this." And then this horror music starts to play, and he's like,
"I can see everything."
Oh, sorry. Some ad started playing on my phone.
I thought I was ascending. I swear that was amazing.
You thought you were ascending? Yeah.
The voices of everything are opening above me. There's a koala in the sky. Yeah. Why is it smiling? What does it know?
I can see everything. And then his shoes fall.
And in pop culture,
that's all he has left of him.
In pop culture, if your shoes fall off, you dead.
Oh, absolutely. Lost a shoe, you're gone.
So do you think that he actually died because of the wounds of the rock or nah?
Nah.
Do you think he actually ascended? I think he probably did. It's weird that you can just do like 10 years of meditation and then become one with the universe, and not everybody's doing that.
Right.
Okay.
What I thought was really great here was they totally, again, this show is so great at subverting stuff. We have seen Ascension in the past that was just like, and I'm ascended. Remember John Doe and Transfigurations? And this one was like, no, you're human, you're limited, and suddenly your comprehension is and your senses are opened to everything. How uncomfortable are you going to be until that process is over? And so he's just like, this is terrible, because his little brain is trying to comprehend everything that's happening, and finally he pops out. And we wish him well, O'Connor.
It kind of reminds me of Dr. Manhattan. Because when Dr. Manhattan was transforming after the project that he worked on that radiated him, that was a very violent transformation as well. Mm-hmm. And so it could be a little bit of a parallel to that. But it just reminded me of that a little, because I remember seeing in the comics how he was like, you saw a glowing skeleton over like a period of weeks, and he was like, his soul, like his bodily form, had been transformed, and it was like seeming like very painful and grotesque. So
yes,
I also like how this episode hints that Abraham Lincoln is also ascended.
Oh yeah.
Because he says when he's ascending, he says, "I see Abraham Lincoln."
Oh, that's fucking funny. I love that. So yeah, Tendi gets his shoes as a souvenir. She's like, "I'm sorry that I helped you ascend because you didn't want it."
Oops.
Yeah. So after this, we go to Durango ship. We see it's basically they're like, how do we save these people that are on here? And it's very, very fucked up. And
they're like, let's take him to an old ship.
Yeah, let's put him in the generational ship, and he'll be great there with these dusty old mummies.
So they beam everybody successfully, and there's a cute little hug that is suddenly like, oh wait, nope.
Yeah, we'll go back to what we're used to. Mm-hmm. And that's why when we go to the conference room in the next scene, Mariner knows that it won't be normal.
I love they're using 24th century leaf blowers.
I literally, yes, in my notes,
that
space
awesome.
Leaf blowers.
Yeah.
Space version of everything.
Looks like the leaf blower I have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Mariner knows that it's not going to be peaches and cream with her mom. And so you can see her, she's having like second thoughts. The guy says the Admiral comes in to give them badges and says sensors. And Mariner's face here is so funny. She's like, I can't help but just be like, you're so dumb. She calls him out for it, and her mom's like, no, that's how everyone says it. That's how I say it. Sensors. And she's like, she's making fun of you, dummy. It's just really funny. She eventually she implies her mom's sensors are off by thinking that everything was fine between them, and because her mom kowtows to the Admiral in the scene, which is not what Mariner's about. And she's like, she yawns again.
This poor guy. He's like, well, are you making fun of me because it's known that I mispronounce things? Are you making fun of me?
Everyone's looking at her. Look at Ransom in the back. He's like,
yeah, that's the Ransom glare. Curious here, the Admiral only has pips on one side of his collar.
Right.
As is established, admirals have the same number of pips on each side. So he should have 2 bars of 4 on each side of his neck instead of just 1 bar of 4.
Maybe they changed it.
Yeah, I'm okay with this. I never really got why that was. You had the same. Yeah, it didn't make sense.
Well, sense or not, when Carol is speaking to Mariner's dad, he's an admiral and he has bars on both sides. So it's a very interesting.
But I think his uniform was a little different than this guy's.
He has the gold yoke line with the epaulets. It's pretty much the same thing.
They both have the epaulets. Okay.
I know, because you should have seen Cal when I was like watching this the first time. I was drooling over how beautiful this uniform is. For those of you that don't know, I have a uniform fetish. I need them all. Oh boy.
He does. Dag has some great uniforms. You do. So yeah,
I don't have this guy's. This guy's uniform is freaking beautiful.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know why they didn't have it on both sides, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it's just really weird. But anyway, she sabotages herself in front of the Authority again,
sabotages her mom at the same time,
just like she did in front of Durango at the beginning of the episode. And she knows that by acting this way, her mom is going to be forced by the Admiral to take action to get Mariner back where she wants to be.
We go back down to the bunks and we're wrapping the episode up. She's got the shoes and she's like, and Rutherford suggests that there are people on the crew that don't like her. And she's like, tell me who they are.
Awesome. No, it's fine. I can deal with it. Who are they?
Yeah. Mariner's like, Boimler says you got everything I wanted and you still got to, you ruined it. How are we even friends? And she's like, I stole the access card to the good replicator programs. And he's like, I'm going to get the mac and cheese with the breaded top, which is like me. That's like my shit.
That's such a weird thing though. Why would the command replicators be able to produce better food than the ones they have available to them?
It's an incentive.
Yeah.
An incentive to get promoted. Just I don't want to like that.
You think that there's you would think that in a post-scarcity society there wouldn't be scarcity like that.
I would like to think that in a post-scarcity society, and also in a society where we value each other's health and well-being, that we wouldn't use food options as an incentive for promotion.
Oh, please. That just
There's still
we just like mac and cheese, good mac and cheese. Okay, so that's why we view this as cruel, but it's really not cruel.
But I don't think
you're going to withhold the good mac and cheese from me. This is a cruel society, period. Okay?
You give me my bread and top, woman.
What are you going to say? No, you can't have pepperoni pizza. Like,
oh, you can only have pepperoni pizza with this many pepperoni.
Yeah.
You want the command level number of pepperoni. You got to promote yourself.
Well, but here's
what stuffed crust, Ensign, in your dreams.
Here's the problem I have with that, and with talking about post scarcity. And this is something that I've read several articles on. Post scarcity doesn't mean lack of incentive or the negation of incentive, because sure, if you've, and that's why I think, because we don't have a good frame of reference as to what it would be like to be in a post scarcity society. This is completely alien to us. And there was something that I read that really dives into the post scarcity and talks about things like, okay, but there are still menial tasks that need to be done. There are still jobs that need to happen that how does someone want to be a janitor or want to clean out sewer pipes, or when it comes to housing, how do you determine, well, this will be my house or that one, and in what area? So it's just, there's
basic
things
needs.
Right. There's things about post scarcity that I don't. And then where's your incentive? Just this whole society of anyone can do whatever they want, anyone can have whatever they want, but things still have to happen. And you can't tell me that every single person doesn't need any kind of incentive to do anything, because, you know, when they get to do whatever they want, then how do you keep things going? Like, okay, well, we don't have to have a job. This one thing has to be done, and no one's going to like it. It really sucks to do it. No one has to do it. So how do you get people to suddenly want to do these tasks like that when they don't have to? So I do think that there has to be.
You make androids do it.
Right. Or yeah, you make androids do it that end up getting hacked and then blowing shit up on you.
Make holograms do it.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, there's that, but I think there still needs to be some kind of incentive base that's happening. And when you have a ship where your command officers have, I guess, more robust options of replicator menu choices, and the cadets don't, I get that. To me, that sounds like, okay, sure. I mean, you have to have some incentive of performance. Otherwise, you run the risk of having a very lazy society that doesn't want to do anything, doesn't have the incentive to do anything.
I agree.
So yeah, I get it. If I'm a cadet, I shouldn't expect that I can go to the replicator and order a big juicy steak. I need to, that's my incentive to get promoted, to do well, because here are the perks. Here are the perks for, performing in your job, and et cetera, et cetera. I don't think that we're perk free. To me, post scarcity doesn't mean that we're suddenly we're above needing perks or incentive.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I was mostly being tongue in cheek with the, how dare you withhold my bread and top mac and cheese from me. But, I agree. I think that honestly, the concept of post scarcity in Trek was mentioned as true, but never fully delved into. And honestly, we could do like a whole episode.
Yeah, because there's too many holes in the concept, honestly.
On it. Yeah, there's holes in the concept, but I think that like the universe makes it work, and it's a great way to kind of like go into the future. Sure. It's going to be a place where everyone's basic needs are met. And if you want to have more authority or be in an elevated position, you will have to have that incentivized. So I don't know. I kind of agree.
I'm just going to add that I do support the notion of there still being incentives and even material incentives in Starfleet and the Federation overall. Mm-hmm. I just think it's cruel and unusual punishment to withhold somebody's mac and cheese.
Well, if you're cadet, you get box mac and cheese.
You will see me climb the ladder faster than anybody else.
Yes. See, Watney wants the fresh, like homemade mac and cheese, whereas the cadets get that box mac and cheese shit.
Fresh. I want that homemade baked top mac and cheese with lobster.
With Velveeta cheese. Ooh.
This is what it's going to be like. If Watney was captain of a starship and somebody got promoted to like commander, so they had access to the captain's menu, they'd be like, computer, replicate me Captain Watney's brand of macaroni and cheese. And the computer would be like, please be more specific. There are 3,627 options for the captain's macaroni and cheese.
Yes.
Then they're just going to roll credits on me standing there being like, damn.
Oh yeah. No, I'm so hungry. This is dangerous.
I know. I'm hungry now too. Can we wrap this thing up?
All right.
Yeah. We should probably wrap.
There's one moment that I thought was really interesting. We noticed Tendi walks up to Rutherford and she's holding O'Connor's boots before she starts this fight with Rutherford. Mm-hmm. But as the scene fades out, I don't know if you guys saw it or not, but the gong is on her bed and it wasn't there before.
Oh
my God, I just got chills.
It's a scene, and it's a Zuchian gong. I Googled Zuchian, it doesn't exist, so it's some other style or race in Star Trek. But when she walks up, that gong is clearly not there. She's holding the boots, and now we can see the boots are on the floor, the gong is on her bed, and she's still trying to ransom information from Rutherford about who doesn't like her.
Yeah. Good catch.
I think it's also a good way to say, like, okay, they shared a kiss, but she left the boots behind and now she's back to like Rutherford in that development.
But it's still a part of her. This thing, it's like almost metaphorically telling me like this experience has become a part of her.
Yes, for sure. She's learned so much and it left an imprint on her. What a great call out. That's amazing. I did not notice that. It's all in the details in this show.
It is.
Yeah. So I think that's where we're going to wrap for today. If you stuck with us this long, again, we thank you so much for listening. And I want to give a very extra special shout out to our subscribers. I have 2 people to name specifically. Stephanie Baker is a Patreon of ours and an Anchor donator. Stephanie, thank you so much. We love you. Thank you for your support. And Jim Cook, who is an Anchor donator as well. Jim, thank you. And thank you for listening and for the support. I'm going to tell you where you can find us. We do have a Patreon, like I said, patreon.com/BeyondTrek. We would love your support there. All of your support goes into making the show bigger and better, and it really helps us keep doing what we're doing. So you can also find us on Twitter. That's Dag Space. He runs our Twitter account at Beyond Trek Pod. I run our Instagram, Beyond Trek Podcast. Brand new account. Would love you to follow us there. And we, of course, have a Facebook, facebook.com/Beyond Trek Productions.
And until next time, keep living long, prospering, and thank you for boldly going with Beyond Trek Podcast.
We are Beyond Trek Podcast. Lower your inhibitions and surrender your years. We will add inspirational and hilarious Trek content to your day. Your attention will adapt to subscribe to us. Resistance is futile.